So, yeah, I'd say that speculative fiction, it gives us a way to conceive of the future, and it can provide some stark warnings, and it depends what it's used for. If it's used radically, then it can be incredibly mind-expanding and a very useful political and moral tool for exploring thought experiments, if you like, of what would it be like if this happened? What would it be like if that happened? Of course, speculative fiction can also be used for sheer escapism, which is the exact opposite of anything which is politically useful. I mean, that is... escapist science fiction, particularly at the moment, is probably the opium of the masses. You know, so, yes, potentially a wonderful tool, but with great potential for misuse.
What connections do you see with magic and art and with magic and activism?
Sorry, what was the second one? With magic and...
Activism.
Right, well, I'd say that magic and art, to me, are synonymous.
Okay.
I believe that the world of art would be greatly enriched if the people doing it were to treat it as if it were magic. I think that the art scene at the moment over here with the new British artists who seem to me to be largely lazy conceptualists who are putting forward a kind of half concept. It's more of a sort of a concept in the advertising sense than the art sense. But it's lazy, it's empty, there's no passion behind it, there's no fire. If they were to regard their work as magic, I think that we would start to see some real powerful art again. Just as most of the artists in the past who we've admired at least believed that there was a magical element in their work. I mean, some really surprising ones. People like Mondrian, who you'd think was a strict rationalist with all those carefully measured little boxes. But no, he was a theosophist. And he was using those ratios and colours to express theosophical ideas. Picasso spent his youth completely absorbed in hashish and mysticism. You know, most of the great musicians, the great the surrealists were taking their cues from occultism and alchemy. Marcel Duchamp. Hang on. Who did Bride Stripped Bare by Her Bachelors even?
I'm not sure.
Sorry? Was that Duchamp?
I'm not sure.
Well, I think it was probably Duchamp, but I might have made a complete ridiculous mistake there, but he intended his work, The Bride Stripped Bare by Her Bachelors even, as an alchemical work. Monteverdi, who invented opera, was an alchemist. He invented opera as a form of art which would be able to express alchemical ideas. Art and magic are kind of interchangeable, but if people are treating art as magic, it is my contention that they will probably do better art. Conversely, I think if people were treating magic as art, then they'd probably do better magic. I'm not massively impressed with the occult scene in the present day. I think that if they were to regard what they were doing as a form of art, then at least they'd be getting something creative out of all those rituals and lodge meetings. You know, something that they could actually show to other people, something that might be of benefit to human culture. You know, that's got to be a win-win situation, I would have thought. Now, as for how magic and activism fit together, I mean, I've said before that I'm an anarchist. And that anarchy is, to me, the opposite pole of the political spectrum from fascism. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of spirituality, I would say that fascism, which comes from the Roman term, which was based upon the bundle of twigs that was used to make the fascia of a house. And the theory behind it was that in unity there is strength. That is basically all fascism is saying. That like a bundle of, one twig will break, but a bundle of bound twigs, bound together in one belief, will be strong. That's fascism. Whereas, of course, anarchy is saying no leaders, and it's celebrating diversity. Now, the word religion, if you look that up in a dictionary, it has the same root as words like ligature and ligament. What it basically means is bound together in one belief. It doesn't even have to be a spiritual belief. You know, I mean, Marxism is a religion by that definition. Atheism is a religion by that definition. And I believe that sometimes you can see in the pronouncements of Richard Dawkins an almost religious dogma, which I don't approve of. Now, I know that this is a bit extreme, but it seems to me that religion and fascism hence have a kind of equivalence in the political and spiritual arenas. They are both talking about binding together in one belief with other people, which I frankly find, as an anarchist, completely unnatural. Magic, conversely, I would see as being a spiritual equivalent to anarchy, in that magic is purely the relationship of an individual with the universe. It is not a religion. You can worship a 2nd century snake god that you are fully aware was an elaborate sock puppet. You know, you can... and the reason why I do worship my 2nd century sock puppet snake god, Glykon, is precisely because nobody is going to be mad enough to worship a creature like that. I am not going to be saddled with a religion. I use Glykon as a focal point or symbol through which I make my own peace with the universe, and through which, hopefully, I understand the universe a little better. It's purely a thing of the individual. Even in things like Kabbalah, it's recognized that your Kabbalah and my Kabbalah will be completely different, or may be completely different. That everybody has their own equivalent of this system. So, to me, as an anarchist, certainly magic is a much more comfortable and conducive system, you know, and it seems to fit with anarchy, whereas to me it seems that, yeah, fascism and religion have a certain parity. And I think that also, in terms of magic, magic includes everything. It includes everything in your life. It is not purely about some abstract other realm, although it touches upon abstract other realms, but it's about everything in your life. It's about how you live. It's about how you bring up your children. It's about how you educate yourself. It's about your sex life. It's about your political life. All of these things are kind of indivisible. We live in a reductionist society which likes to break everything down into manageable compartments. And yes, I can see why that was necessary. When we were faced with this huge, incomprehensible universe, And reductionism was our best way of patiently coming to understand it. But, no, reductionism can lead to a situation where you've got people isolated in their own little pockets of knowledge with no way of talking to each other, where they don't even share the same language anymore, and where there are parts of their existence that they feel alienated from their religious lords, or their spiritual lords, or their sex lords, or their political lords. I think that one of the benefits of magic is that it integrates the whole of your experience into one way of seeing, one way of understanding. And my last conversation with my great friend Kathy Acker, who passed away in the late 90s, a very radical writer, author of Blood and Guts in High School and numerous other scandalous works. And just after I got into magic, I met up with Kathy. I told her what had been happening, and I said that I was getting the feeling that magic was the last and best bulwark of revolution. And she was saying that she'd had some experiences and she was starting to feel exactly the same way. That with magic, you're not attempting to change the nature of the government. You're not attempting to change one government for a different government. Mm-hmm. What you're attempting to do is to change reality all the way we see it. Oh, hang on just a second. Yeah, I'm just doing an interview, darling. Tell me a second. Yeah, sorry about that. I was just wanting to come in.
No problem.
But, yeah, so, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot. Where were we?
Well, you know, to be honest, I think that you answered the question pretty thoroughly.
I'll probably answer the question.
So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, have you got a final question? Because I've kind of got to be off by 8 o'clock.
Yep. We'll do one more question in kind of two parts. Do you have advice for other writers, musicians, or artists who are creating politically focused art? And then I just want to leave it open for you to throw in anything else that maybe I didn't ask that you think is relevant.
Okay, well, my advice is find your own voice. Yeah, you'll probably be echoing other people's voices when you're in your formative stages, but if you echo enough of them, your own will emerge. You know, it's sort of, once you've found your own, and finding your own voice depends upon finding your own way of seeing the world. Once you have that kind of way of looking at the world that is coherent and that works for you and that seems to be lucid, then express that. It will be difficult at first because however well you express it, it will not be as beautiful or as clear or as sharp as the vision that you saw in your mind. But it perhaps never will be. But if you keep at it, keep working every day, then eventually you will be better at expressing the stuff that you've got inside you. But the important thing is to have something inside you to start with. There are people who are wonderful artists who say are not particularly great draftsmen. There are people who are wonderful writers who don't have a particularly good vocabulary or grasp of grammar. The important thing is to have that fire within you. The technique, that's important too, but you can learn technique. That will come if you just keep practicing. And I would also say, if you're not a published or well-known or rich artist or writer, don't worry about that. That's nothing to do with art. You know how good an artist or writer or creator you are. And any faults or flaws that you have, try to eliminate them. Try to improve. And then I suggest that if you do that, if you make peace between yourself and your art, you will have made the kind of peace between yourself and your universe, which I was talking about as being central to magic. And I'd say that that is probably the best advice that I can give. Oh, and don't trust Whitey. But that's pretty much it. I genuinely can't think of anything else that we haven't covered, really. We've been quite exhaustive.
Okay. Great. Well, again,
but no, it's been a great interview, Chris. You know.